All right, now to the courts here on First at 3. The Bellevue man accused of smothering his 2 kids wants his interviews with police to be completely tossed out. Brian Mastry joins us now live from the newsroom with the latest on the Adam Price murder case. And Brian, this is a very slow-moving case with a potentially big development just today.
Yeah, very slow moving. So if you think about it, in May, it will be 2 years since those 2 young children were found dead in their father's home. Their father arrested in California. 37-year-old Adam Price, well, he looked noticeably different this morning in Sarpy County District Court. He was clean shaven, he had a buzz cut, he took some notes with his left hand after one of the deputies took it out of the handcuffs. But let's go back to 2021. Adam Price was in the middle of a divorce. His wife lived in Illinois. It was his weekend to have the children, 5-year-old Emily and 3-year-old Teddy. Well, mom wasn't able to reach them. So a family friend ended up doing a welfare check and found them dead in Adam Price's home. Adam Price was arrested in California. Investigators say he had driven there. So the next day, Bellevue detectives get there and want to ask him some questions, take him into a county interrogation room. There they ask him exactly what happened to his children. Testified today, a Bellevue sergeant did, that he would often go silent during those question and answer points, but then he would start talking again. They ended up talking to him for 8 hours, 23 minutes. The Bellevue sergeant said that Adam Price never asked for an attorney, while his defense believes that interrogation should not be allowed at trial.
We are just challenging the sufficiency of the interrogation by the officers, and we just want to make sure that Mr. Price's rights are being protected as this case proceeds.
We submitted our testimony and evidence, and we believe once the court reviews those videos, our position is that they did not violate his constitutional rights and that any statements he made there will be admissible.
So, Dave, the big question is, what did he say during the interrogation? One side wants it at trial, the other doesn't. But there's one little sliver that we were given more than a year ago by one investigator. They asked Adam Price if he could see doing that day all over again, and detectives have testified at a past hearing that Adam Price allegedly said, "I would do it again." We're expecting Judge Thompson to rule on this part of the admissibility of the interrogation. We're expecting, maybe based on a timeline, to hear something in February. On your side of the newsroom, Brian Mastry, 6 News.